All right, I just finished watching the new Xbox Developer Direct that went live today, and I have some thoughts. Announced a couple weeks ago, Xbox was saying they were going to show off 4 games with some developer insights, and one of the surprises that came out today is that it was actually 5. We had one more developer show up, and while there is some stuff that was hit and miss about the show specifically that I do want to talk about, the first thing I really want to tackle is how much I love this format. And Xbox has tried a couple different standalone presentation formats like this in the past. I just feel like none of them have really truly worked out right. Partially because in a lot of those cases, they'll try to do things like highlight developers, which is a good thing to do, but it's always done in a very sort of live, talk, interview. There's a certain momentum hit that happens with that approach. Whereas this one was more like a series of dev diaries, where the developers are still involved. It still is lightly interviewee. They are talking about things about the game from their perspective, but it's actually cut up, edited, and assembled in a way, combined with footage and music, that just really helps energize the whole thing a lot more. I think over the past couple years, Xbox has done a pretty good job with their presentations at major events like E3 or the Summer Games Fest when E3 wasn't going on. Those were solid, but every time they've tried some kind of off-season format, it's just not quite there. And really, I think out of the big 3 companies, they're the ones that struggled most with it. I mean, Nintendo's got their Nintendo Direct thing going on, which is great. Sony's done the State of Plays, which, yeah, there's been some weak ones, but some really strong ones too. And Xbox just didn't really have a proper equivalent to that felt strong until this one. Now, I don't know whether or not this is actually a thing they're planning on doing more of in this exact style, but I really hope it is. Like, even if it's something that we only get every 4 or 5 months because they're still building up having more things to actually announce and show, because that is the other aspect of things that needs to get worked on. But if this was the format moving forward from now on, I really think this is the best way that they've done it, and I would love to see them lean into it. Now, as for the actual specific announcements themselves, overall, a little hit and miss. The specific one thing that I lost my mind about and loved is Hi-Fi Rush. This was the surprise announcement. They brought Tango Gameworks out, who, traditionally we've known for more horror games. Evil Within was the big debut title. More recently, they did Ghostwire Tokyo, and they revealed a music-focused action game that looks so much fun. And one of the things about it that I really liked is the fact that it doesn't really punish you for playing off beat. You can do attacks at whatever rhythm you want. However, by successfully playing on beat, you get things like combo finishers and enhancements. So if you're trying to find your rhythm a bit, you're not going to be punished right away for it, and instead you can build towards getting better and better at it. And what's really neat too is that everything is plugged into this beat, not just the combat itself, but also things like obstacles you're dealing with, how cutscenes are played out, just a really cool style across the board that I'm excited for. And this game, of all things, is a shadow drop. It is already out and available for download right now, and that's probably what I'm gonna do after this and working on a couple other videos that I should probably work on. So that to me was the big highlight. Surprise title, looks great, kind of has that passion project vibe a bit more, which we've been seeing happen with some Xbox developers, so love that. A little more hit and miss. I'm not gonna talk much about Forza Motorsport because, to be honest, that looks great. Just not my kind of game, so I don't really feel like I can weigh in that much on it. Redfall is one where I do walk away a little more mixed. I love Arcane. I've enjoyed a lot of the titles. Dishonored is one of my favorite stealth games there is. And Redfall is looking to be the kind of thing where it's not necessarily going to be a bad game, it's not a game for me. They're leaning a lot more into the co-op action aspect of things. It sounds like it's a little more mission-based rather than being focused on its own story with like a beginning, middle, and end. They've brought up before a couple times how the game does have solo play and supports solo play, and that the game can be played that way in an enjoyable fashion, but every time we see more details and more gameplay, I just get this feeling in the back of my head more and more that, yeah, maybe not for me. I hope I'm wrong, but I just won't know yet until the game comes out, which that is one good thing. We got a solid release date for it finally on May 2nd after it's had a couple different delays. Aside from that, they did open with a presentation for Minecraft Legends. Again, not so much my kind of thing, but there were a lot of really interesting ideas going on there, and I actually think in terms of how that whole presentation was constructed was a really strong opening for them. And lastly, what I felt was kind of the weakest part of the show, ESO. I like ESO. I don't play MMOs a ton, but that's actually one of the ones that I have soaked a decent amount of time into. It was just a little awkward because part of the presentation opened with, hey, here's the new content coming out. You should definitely check out the expansion when it drops. And then it kind of just turned into them really pushing why you should play ESO if you haven't yet. And look, It works for the other games they talk about because they're upcoming titles and they're explaining why you should check it out at launch. With ESO, it just felt a little more awkward because it's, hey, this game that's been out for over 5 years, really, you should check it out if you haven't yet. Please. Overall, though, some light bumps aside, I thought this was a wonderful presentation. Again, I really feel like this is something that Xbox has just had as a very big weakness over the last couple of years when it comes to presenting new stuff and getting people excited for it the right way. And this felt like the most successful one they've had in quite some time. Major E3 presentation type stuff aside. I love that they did it this way. I want to see them do this more. I hope it's a format that's going to actually be a recurring thing and not just a one-off to start this year, because it really does, I think, set the right kind of tone that's just been lacking for a while. So those are my thoughts on the Xbox Developer Direct. If you came here to check out some thoughts on it without actually watching it itself, I really do recommend giving it a look. I think there's some great info in there. And if anything, if you've got Game Pass, go check out Hi-Fi Rush, because I'm going to go do that like right now.